Episode 6. My stand-in episode 6 drops us in Joe's old apartment with Soul calling him an intruder. But Joe punches him and runs before Soul can unmask him. At his mother's house, Joe goes through the pack he'd taken, but it's only his tag and ID. His mother wakes, coughing and sore. In the hospital, what comes to check on them? His mother is in serious condition, but there's reason to believe she'll heal. Joe explains how hard she'd worked to look after him while he was in the hospital. What tells him he should blame old karma rather than himself. By phone, What hears there's a problem with Ming and takes off to handle it, giving Joe the day off. At the office, it's Soul and Ming arguing over Joe's apartment where Ming claims he lives while he awaits Joe's return. From outside the building, Joe listens as they discuss the break-in, deciding not to get the police involved since they're both public figures. Instead, Ming's family has a private detective who can perhaps find clues on site or via CCTV. Back at the hospital, Joe persuades his mother to remain in the hospital as the doctor recommends, but to himself, worries about his ability to pay. He phones Joy, asking to be Tom's stand-in, but hears they've already found someone. On set, Tom isn't satisfied with the stuntman, but Joy has already brought in Joe. He looks more like Tom from behind, so they agree to reshoot previous scenes if Joe does well. The director believes they're all the same, but Ming steps in to confirm Joe's a better fit, to which Tom agrees. Off-set, Ming questions Joe as to how he knows all of Tom's moves. When Tom joins them, Ming asks to join the cast too, so Tom agrees to write a role for him. Outside, Joe listens into Ming's conversation with the detective, resolving that he must prevent Ming from going to his house tonight. Ming's secretary catches him hanging around, so he says the crew is having a party, inviting Ming. Both Ming and then Tom agree to join in, and now Joe is stuck going to drinks too. That evening, as a young actor hits on Joe, Ming steps in, dragging Joe to his table. Trying to get past the awkwardness, Joe says he'll pour the drinks, angling to get Ming drunk. After hours of drinking and as the room thins, Jim insists Joe help bring Ming home. They head to the family house where drunk Ming falls on Joe, kissing him. Instead of helping, Jim skips out, leaving a shouting Joe behind as Ming says he misses him. At this, Joe tucks him in bed, reminding himself that the one Ming misses isn't either Joe. He then heads back to the apartment to wipe his prints from the crime scene. The next day, Ming and the detective can't find any evidence, surprised at the absence of forced entry. Jim suggests he's not been able to reach Joe, perhaps because of the previous night, but Ming doesn't know what he's talking about. At the office, Soul tells What he'll stay in Thailand for a bit until things are settled. What suggests a music video with Joe, because he reminds him of their old friend Joe. Although Soul isn't convinced, when Joe enters, he agrees to consider him. After Soul leaves, Joe explains that his mother will need lifelong dialysis, which is why he's accepted the job with Tom. But what warns him to be cautious, offering to help him work with Soul as well. To manage the medical bills, Joe requests an advance on his stunt work while Ming secretly watches him, hearing about the medical costs from Jim. Without success and dazed, Joe steps into the road and is nearly hit by Soul's car. Inside the car, Soul wants to know why he didn't mention his mother's illness when they met, but Joe didn't want to burden him. Soul sees a similarity to his old friend Joe, who also wouldn't share his troubles. He offers to loan the money, but as Joe declines, he insists on the music video job instead. At Joe's mother's house, Ming insists on speaking to him, offering to help him with his career, in exchange for becoming his previous Joe's stand-in. Joe kicks him out, but Ming notes that he always gets what he wants. Thinking about all the incoming bills from his hospitalization plus his mother's, Joe relents, bargaining with Ming for a year of his life. Ming kisses him to accept the deal, and Joe better learn to like it because it's just the beginning. The episode review. Oh man, what an exhausting episode. The first few minutes looked like we'd be heading toward Joe becoming a stand-in for himself, and lo and behold, here it is. Serious money worries and a big fat slap from old karma has put him exactly where he was in his old life. However, last time he was at this crossroads, he thought he'd found a means of escaping money woes with the stunt job that killed him. And before, he didn't have dependents to consider. Even though both What and Soul offer to loan him money, Joe won't get others involved or risk that kind of relationship. Instead, he throws himself to the lion, a position he can't seem to escape in this life either. If he had even a little bit of luck, he may have been able to access Joe's old funds. But no, he can't even get what's rightfully his. In other exciting plot points, there's no surprise Soul has a problem with Ming, but now they'll find a shiny new reason to hate each other. Especially if Ming tries to shake Joe in front of him like a red cape to a rose-headed bull. Won't Soul just love hearing that the new Joe, who reminds him of the old Joe, has sold himself to Ming? Alas, Joe has now become a stand-in for himself with his psycho ex-boyfriend. Karma really is a bitch. But you didn't hear that here. Have you fallen for my stand-in? Let us all about it in the comments below.